and an extensive branch and service network across Thailand and in key economies worldwide. Since its founding, Bangkok Bank has played a pivotal role in advising and supporting customers to help as Thailand's most visionary bank. It was the first commercial bank in Southeast Asia to establish an overseas branch, opening in Hong Kong in 1954. Today, the bank's overseas network spans more than 300 branches in 14 economies, with more than 900 correspondent banks worldwide. Bangkok Bank is a leading regional bank in Southeast Asia, with branches in 9 ASEAN countries. In 2020, we expanded our Bangkok Bank family by welcoming Permata Bank, Indonesia's 12th largest bank by assets, with more than 300 branches in over 60 cities. Permata Bank and Bangkok Bank share key synergies. We want to support Indonesian international clients to grow their businesses across ASEAN and beyond. Bangkok Relay as a trusted business partner to Thai, regional and international companies. Bangkok Bank stands ready to help people across ASEAN tap into exciting opportunities in trade and investment, and to empower businesses across ASEAN to be integrated.
นี่ว่า
YouTube that we provide an interpreter menu from English to Thai language for your convenience. You can access it under interpretation button. First of all, I would like to greet our respected participants and speakers for today's event. Welcome to President Director of Permata Bank, Mr. Charlie Tajasanan, our respected speakers, Senior Executive Vice President Office of President of Bangkok Bank, Dr. Kopsa Putrakun, Chief Economist of Permata Bank, Pak Joshua Pardede, Board of Commissioner and Board of Directors of Permata Bank and Bangkok Bank, our beloved customers of Permata Bank and Bangkok Bank, our media friends, and to all of you who are attending this forum via Zoom, YouTube, and Facebook. With COVID-19 vaccine become more readily available and most countries has rolled out their vaccination program, the light at the end of the tunnel turns brighter for us. With greater optimism of economic recovery from the pandemic, this webinar will provide you insight from two prominent economists in Asia on the outlook of our economy in 2022, which we hope will be beneficial for all of us. This event is also a special one because this is the very first joint event between Permata Bank and its controlling shareholder, Bangkok Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, to open today's Economy Outlook 2022 webinar, I would like to invite the President Director of Permata Bank, Mr. Charlie Tajasanan, to deliver his remark. Mr. Charlie, the screen is yours.
Good afternoon, Selamat siang, Sawadee krap, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, on behalf of Permata Bank's management team, please allow me to extend our warmest greetings and appreciation to our two respected speakers, Dr. Kopsak Putrakun, Senior Executive Vice President, Office of President of Bangkok Bank, Joshua Pardede, Chief Economist of Permata Bank, our valued customers of both Permata Bank and Bangkok Bank, our media friends, and to all participants joining us today. It is with great pleasure to welcome you to this momentous event. Since our successful integration between Permata Banks and Bangkok Bank's Indonesia customers in December 2020, from official acquisition by Bangkok Bank in May 2020, Permata Bank has grown larger, wider, and more inclusive in terms of business and financial performance. Now, more than ever, we are ready to serve more extensively and become the bank of choice to all. Our capital grew stronger, making the bank one of Indonesia's 10 largest commercial banks by total assets. The acquisition also allows Bangkok Bank, Indonesian, as well as overseas network customers to access Permata Bank comprehensive banking services and vice versa, Permata Bank's customer can explore beyond Indonesia through the support of Bangkok Bank's regional strength. Through the synergy between Bangkok Bank and Permata Bank, we work together to maximize our corporate and SME business potential to increase our market shares in Indonesia and overseas where Bangkok Bank operates. We are aligning the group's strategic direction and plans with all strategies related to business units based on market conditions and potential organic growth. We are also aligning the development of digital platforms and digital roadmaps while making sure we share the best practice across company groups. เพื่อนคู่คิด มิตรคู่บ้าน which means be a trusted partner and a reliable close friend is Bangkok Bank's slogan, which is synonymous with the one we have at Permata Bank. To be the bank of choice, nurturing relationships and creating value for our stakeholders. It is our commitment together to not simply help finance our customers, but also to help them solve problems, identify their business opportunities in disruptive times, as well as provide them with advices and other supports they need to transition so they can thrive in the future. We understand that we all still live in uncertainty, especially during this pandemic. Therefore, through this webinar, we want to increase our customers' optimism and extend our appreciation for your resilience in enduring and coping in these challenging times. Today, in the webinar with the title Light at the End of the Tunnel, Optimism of Economic Recovery after COVID-19 pandemic, we invite two economic experts to give presentations of global and national economic conditions and predictions. Dr. Gopsak from Bangkok Bank is one of Thailand's finest economists. He will bring you the overview of global economic during the recovery time, while Permata Bank's chief economist, Joshua Pradede, who is also one of widely sought after for his knowledge in Indonesia, will take you through the Indonesia economic outlook and get into details on how to promote economic recovery amidst federal normalization policy. It is an honor for us to have two of Southeast Asia's best economists in our webinar between their busy schedules, and it is a pleasure that we can bring them to you, our loyal customers. I hope this webinar can be of help in exploring your business potential and give you some needed guidance to adapt and develop in all situations. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our speakers, Dr. Gopsak and Joshua, for contributing their insights in this webinar. Also to Permata Bank's and Bangkok Bank's team who have worked hard to make this webinar happen. Lastly, On behalf of Permata Bank, I would like to thank our respected and loyal customers for the support you have shown us all this time. Your support and loyalty inspire us every day to continue moving forward so that we can always be your bank of choice, not just for today, but also for more years to come. Terima kasih, ขอบคุณครับ Take care, and I hope you enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, Mr. Jalil. Before we start with the two respected speakers, I would like to invite Dr. Kopsak Putrakun and Pak Joshua Pardede to appear on the screen for photo session with Mr. Jalil Tajasanan. 3, 2, 1. Thank you. And now I would like to invite Bapak Darwin Wibowo, Wholesale Banking Director of Permata Bank, to join the photo session. 3, 2, 1. Thank you, Mr. Jalil, Pak Darwin, and both of our speakers. Before we go to the next session, I would like to inform you that there is a Q&A feature on your screen to those of you who are joining via Zoom, where you can ask a question through it. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first session of this webinar, I would like to welcome Dr. Kopsak Putrakun. Dr. Kopsak Putrakun is a Senior Executive Vice President, Office of the President at Bangkok Bank. Prior to joining the bank, he served as Minister attached to the Prime Minister's Office of Thailand, supervising the Board of Investment, the National Economic and Social Development Council, the National Research Council, as well as the Office of the SMEs Promotion. He had also served as a former Vice Minister of the Prime Minister's Office, as well as a former member of the Constitution Drafting Committee before being appointed as the Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Kopsak Putrakun. Mr. Kopsak,
สวัสดีครับ
thank you.
Selamat siang. Good afternoon. คุณชลิต Park Darwin, Park Joshua, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor to be part of the first joint webinar between Permata Bank and Bangkok Bank on the very important topic of light at the end of the tunnel, optimism of economic recovery after COVID-19 pandemic. This is the topic I think very close to everyone's heart because we have been waiting for quite some time for the recovery to begin. So today, my topic of the discussion will be on the World Economic Outlook 2022, getting ready to restart. And Park Joshua will come in the next session to talk about the outlook for the Indonesian economy and the opportunity in Indonesia. One second. It has been almost 2 years since the outbreak of COVID-19 in Wuhan, and I'm very certain that everyone would like to know whether we are reaching the end of the tunnel and how should we prepare ourselves for such eventuality and for the new world thereafter. You are thinking about what will be like after we reaching the end. Looking back, at our achievement over the past 2 years and at the recent development around the world. As we approach the end of the second year of COVID-19 pandemic, light at the end of the tunnel become brighter and give us great optimism of new beginnings. To get ready to restart and prepare our business for the next economic cycle, we have to ask ourselves several key questions. How will the world economy adjust over the next 3 years? What are the implications to our business? What are the required preparations for the new normal? We are now standing almost end of 2021 and looking forward over the next 3 years. And we would like to know what would happen and how can we prepare the best for those eventualities. To answer these questions, my talk today will cover 4 topics: the global economic recovery and its short-term challenges, the re-emergence of medium-term risk, long-term opportunities going forward, and finally, getting ready to restart what needs to be done. 2022 will be the key turning point. I'm very sure of that. In the last 12 months, good progress has been made, especially regarding vaccination rollout. As of 16th of November, 4 billion people, or 53.6% of the world population, already have a dose of COVID-19 vaccine. These simple numbers have great implication. It tells us that by year end, we will be able to cover at least half of the world population with full doses. This is despite all the obstacles that we have faced this year. And by the end of 2022, we should have the capability and will be able to fully vaccinate everyone around the world, especially those who would like to be vaccinated. This will have great business consequences because from recent data of COVID-19 cases in Singapore over the past 28 days or the past 4 weeks, around 90,000 people have been infected. But given the high rate of vaccination in Singapore, 98.7% of the cases are asymptomatic or have a mild symptom. And if you look on the right hand side, you can see that people who are becoming critically ill, 90% are those people who are not fully vaccinated. So basically what telling us is that if we can vaccinate everyone, then the incidence of critically ill will become less and less, and we can live with COVID. This gives us hope that by the end of 2022, with our capability to produce and cover everyone in all regions, we should have a good control of the pandemic. In the left figure of this slide, you can see that we also make a very good progress for high income and the upper income countries. These countries contribute for more than 70% of the global GDP. So as customers gain confidence to live their life again, the world economy will recover. You can see that for high income and upper middle income, together they are accounting for roughly about 2/3. And as 2/3 of the people with high income start recover to the normal life again, the overall economy doing quite well at this point in time. We also made another advancement in terms of treatment. Merck and Pfizer have already announced their COVID-19 pills, which will substantially reduce the severity of the symptom. Also, the second generations of the COVID-19 vaccines are also coming next year, and it will help improve our effectiveness in controlling the pandemic. So even though the case of COVID-19 is on the upturn in Europe and in the US, and there are some periodical news about new COVID-19 variants, such as Mu or B1.40 in France. I remain optimistic that our medical advancement and innovation will be able to outpace those changes and bring the overall situation under control. Let me now turn to the global economic recovery process and its short-term challenges. The latest forecast by the IMF during its October annual meeting indicates strong economic recovery for 2021 and 2022 at 5.9% and 4.9% compared to the growth of around 3%. This is in back 30 years. You see that the average growth of the world economy is only around 3%, and the drop of 3%, 3.4% in 2020. The world economy as of this year has already made up for most of the loss that has been experienced by the pandemic and have already returned to its normal growth. In fact, if we look across regions, all regions are projected by the IMF to experience above average growth for around 2 years. You can see that US usually grows 3%, right? This is 5.2%. Europe to 3%. Now it's growing 5%, 4.3%, and then emerging Asia is 7%, 6%, and all region is now going to have quite good growth for 2 years. This is due to something called the post-pandemic boom that will last around 2 years as people resume their normal life and business restarted. In this picture, I collect from early this year during the month of April and May. This is in Israel. This is in England. This is in the US, and this also in US in the Gulf Cup. You can see that people now, with the vaccination, they resume their life. Even though they have another outbreak later on in the years, but nowadays they also have the third dose and they go back to normal life again. It's not only that, if you remember in this figure, you can see that the Euro 2020 early this year, 40,000 people in the same stadium cheering like normal. So basically, this is exactly the picture that people in Asia looking forward to. We would like to go back to the past, right? And in fact, the tourism is also flourishing in the US. This picture on the bottom is in mid of this year. And this is during the Memorial Day weekend, where usually there are 2.4 million passengers per day. On that day, it's go back to 2 million passengers already. This gives us a glimpse of what is waiting for Asia in 2022 as we complete our vaccination process. This is not the first time that we have post-pandemic boom. After 1918 Spanish flu pandemic or 1830 cholera pandemics, we experienced great boom with return of spending, travel, investment to make up for the lost time from the pent-up demand. The economists for the month of May have run this story about the history, what history tells us about the post-pandemic boom. I recommend you to read it so you can get an idea of what is waiting in the store for Asia in 2022. In fact, when you look at on the right-hand diagram, you can see that 16 to 2019 average of America is only grown 2%. In 2021, almost 6%. France is the same thing. So you can see that the year after the pandemic, even though it's not a fully complete recovery, has been quite rewarding. And we hope that the same picture will happen in Asia next year. As a result, we expect to meet with several short-term challenges, which are the consequence of this recovery process of this so-called post-pandemic boom. These challenges include global supply shortage, commodity price surge, inflation spike, asset price bubble, and the Fed tapering. I will share with you my view on each of these challenges. Let me go to the first one. The recovery of the global PMI is already well underway. You can see from the figure that the global PMI have picked up nicely in the year of 2021 and have reached the peak roughly mid of the years. And now we also starting to see some cool down in terms of this PMI index. This is because the restocking process of all businesses. Usually when we restock our inventory, it happens every week, every 2 weeks, every month. But because of COVID, it has been disrupted in all parts of the world. Many store, shop, businesses decided to restock and liquidate their inventory to find liquidity to withstand the crisis. But as vaccination rollout program is well underway and COVID-19 became under control, you're starting to see business start to return to normal. And this trigger the re-inventory process in businesses in key economy around the world, leading to the sharp rise in the demand. From the normal practice of every week become the restocking for the rundown over the past 6 to 8 months. You have to remember that they decide to restock to get liquidity. And once the business coming back again, they have to bring all the inventory back, and that lead to a large order from every business around the world at the same time for 70% of the world economy at the mid of this year. No wonder we start to see a huge increase in terms of PMI across the world. And at the same time, we also heard the word, the great supply disruption, right? And also we have heard people talking about commodity price surges in the last 6 months. You can see that the supply shortage, this is the amount of time that you have to wait at the port, right? Is still increasing up to the month of August. And in terms of the commodity price, it keep on rising. Looking back to the PMI figures in these pictures, I can tell you that what you have seen so far is the first wave of restocking process. But in the coming months, despite it's coming down toward the ends, you might see another more pick up in 2022. This is the second wave of restocking order is due to the vaccination rollout in the second group of countries, which include ASEAN and other emerging countries around the world. The sharp increase in PMI that we see in this chart, the supply chain disruption, as well as commodity price surges will all be temporary. From this figure on the right, you can see that the commodity price surge in some category, especially metal, are already coming down. Price of copper have been sideways since mid of 2021. Price of soybean have coming down almost 25% during the same period. And price of oil is already returned to normal level before COVID-19. If you look in the picture, you can see that this is the normal level, roughly about 65, 70 US dollar per barrel. Now, the oil price may be, but given all progress in the alternative energy technology, the increase that we have seen now should be temporary as well. All these result in the spike in inflation in the US and EU. The US is now reaching 6.2%, and EU is reaching 4.1% from roughly about 1% average that they have in the past. The Fed and the ECB are pointing out to us that these inflation spikes are temporary from low base last year and will come down later, so there's no need to take any action now. Let me briefly turn to monetary policy decision of the Fed. The main question is when to act. When to act, that is the questions. That is the Fed asking themselves all the time. The market has been closely following the Fed decision since last year, and it has been guessing when the Fed will start raising the policy rate and whether it will keep the rate low as long as it takes, and decipher the criteria of reaching minimum employment and inflation above 2% for extended period of time, as the Chairman Powell has mentioned last year. On this topic, I can share with you my view, given my previous work at the Central Bank of Thailand for 15 years. There are two worst nightmares for central bankers. First is taking action too late and become behind the curve. Second is taking action too soon and choking off the recovery. So the aim of all the central banks around the world at this point in time is to find the right balance between taking action too late and taking action too soon. But given the inflation will be transitory, then the question of when to act will center around the recovery in the labor market and the asset price bubbles. So far, it has been good surprise in terms of the speed of employment recovery in the US market, with quite a strong demand from the reopening of businesses around the countries. You can see that before COVID, employment reaching roughly about 160 million people. Now it's come down sharply, but on the way back, it's also go up very quickly, and now it's reaching roughly about 154 million employment already. So it means we only have 5 million left in terms of extra employment to be filled up. But I would like to show you this figure. This is the level of US unemployment rate over the past 70 years. You can see that now the level is at 4.6%. This 4.6%, when you trace it back, is really at the bottom end of all the cycle. So what it means when the Fed said the maximum employment is probably reaching already. And to compare with the peak before COVID, maybe it's not the right place to compare, because this is the peak of the cycle where we have too many employment at that point in time. So basically, I think the Fed, when they look at these two pictures together and they look at what happened on the street, where all the store is saying now hiring, and this is in Oregon, they said 14 and 15 years old is needed in McDonald's. So what it means is the following things mean that they are now struggling to find people to go back to work. And if that is the case, then it means that the room for the Fed will not be for too long. There is not much room left. Now, if we turn to the asset price bubble, let me show you some of the figures. This is the house price in the US before subprime. You can see that at this point in time, we are well above of the subprime when we thought that at that time we have a great housing bubble brewing before the crisis. So the Fed not only worried about employment tightness, they also very much worried about the bubble. And the bubble is not only in the housing price. If you look in terms of Dow Jones Industrial Average, you can also see that the Dow Jones Industrial Average is now 20% above pre-COVID level. And NASDAQ is 60% above the pre-COVID level. Alternative assets such as Bitcoin, the favorite asset that people talking about nowadays, is now roughly about 500 to 600% above pre-COVID period. And if you look at another favorite one, the Ethereum, it is around 2,000% above pre-COVID period. All these are the deep concern of the central bank in their deliberation on when to act, because they know that asset bubble around the world have been fueled by the excess liquidity that they decide to pump into the system to avert the sharp correction as COVID-19 broke out. You can see that after subprime, right, they increased from 1 trillion base. They go take it up to roughly about 4 trillion in terms of money base, right? And then roughly about 2015, they start tapering, take it down to roughly about maybe 3.7, 3.8. But as COVID happened, they decide to take it up from 4 trillion to almost 9 trillion. This is double the amount of what they have in very short time. And if you look at the asset bubble that has been built up because of this excess liquidity, I think the Fed will be very much concerned. Unsurprisingly, in September meeting, the Fed members are now close to indicate that they would like to raise the policy rate at least once in 2020. This is the year 2020, right? And this is almost 2 years earlier than what the chairman of the Fed promised at Jackson Hole meeting in 2020, that he will keep the rate low toward the end of 2023. What the Fed members are afraid of is the dot-com style crisis in 2000s. You can see that this is the NASDAQ, right? In 2000, it go up very high, but when it crashed, it come down very deeply. And also, they also very much afraid of keeping rate too long at the low rate. And this is what happened during the dot-com crisis. They keep the rate low to help economy recover from the dot-com. But as a result, they build up the housing bubble and all the excess risk-taking in the financial sectors and end up in a subprime crisis. This is only 2 years, but this is already many years. See, so that's exactly why we very much concerned that what should we do? So the Fed is thinking about raising the interest rate of at least 2% over the next 2 years. But I think if the economy go too fast, they can also take the rate above the neutral rate of 2.5%. Maybe it's go up to 3.5% to making sure that everything come back under control. And as a result, then we'll probably having some difficulty down the road. You can see that this is when they take the rate too low for too long, right? They have to keep on raising the rate from 1% to 5% in a period of 2 years. And that set in motion to taking care of the overheat economy. Hopefully, we don't do the same this time. What happened as the Fed tapering is underway? The impact on the yield curve and the dollar is to be expected. The 10-year yield curve have now increased by almost 1.25% from mid-2020. in line of what happened during the last tapering in the year of 2015 and 2018. And also the dollar also start to appreciate. You can see that the dollar has been appreciating from 90 to 95.5 compared to before. Last time is a big increase from 80 to 105. So basically, we would see some volatilities in the financial market going forward. Now let me turn to my second topic of re-emergence of medium-term risk. These are the risks that we used to face before the outbreak. But as the pandemic spread, we start losing our attention on them. These include increasing global competition and technological disruption, rising tension from US-China trade war, and the shifting geopolitics and its consequence. As economy become more and more normal, the Industrial Revolution 4.0 will come back. And in fact, it will come back with a vengeance. During the time of COVID, a lot of digital adoption has been taking place. What will take usually 7 to 10 years happen in a short period of 2 years. And as a result, as we get out of the tunnel, we will be very much surprised of what's in store. Our competitor already prepared new product, new technologies, and at the same time, what we used to compete with has already been changed. The delivery channel, the online channels, and all the advanced analytics all been available during this time. So after the COVID end, we will be definitely facing with this disruption one more time. And this time, the rate of disruption will be even faster than before. The trade war between US and China. We used to have some hope that with Biden become the president, the situation will improve. But in fact, what we have seen over the past years is that the trade conflict continue. There might be a meeting yesterday, but in fact, the root cause of the conflict is between the business sector in China and also the business sector in America. The Chinese business are now catching up very fast and develop their own technology and also challenging the US hegemony in terms of business. That's exactly why the business on US side putting pressure in terms of politics to get the US to do something. I would expect that this trend will continue. And if it continues, it means that there will be a continued relocation of business from China and other regions to ASEAN, especially to Vietnam, Indonesia, and Thailand. Furthermore, the geopolitics in Asia will also shift attention to ASEAN with policies such as Belt and Road Initiative of China. You can see that the Belt and Road connect everywhere around the world, right? But in fact, when you look at it, the place that has the most potential, the most active economy, and the most people is in Southeast Asia. And that's exactly why China looking at this region very closely and put a lot of emphasis on it. It's not only China. Korea also have looking south policies. India also have looking east policies. And also Japan also declare Indo-Pacific policies as well as the US. So you can see that Southeast Asia is now becoming the key crossroad for all. And I think this process will continue for the next 20 years. This will definitely create a great long-term business opportunity going forward, one that you should not miss. ASEAN and Southeast Asia will become the third key area for doing business in Asia as in momentum, size of ASEAN will become clear to all, and its growth potential will be one of the best in the world economy. This is because of the strategic location of ASEAN that have good land-based connectivity with both China and India. All of this connectivity and corridor has been developed over the past 50 years. You can see this, right? This is Thailand, connecting to Kunming, Western China. And also from the northeastern part of Thailand to Laos, Vietnam, going to Nanning in Guangxi, in the southern part of China. It's not only that, when Myanmar come back, the road is already well developed in Myanmar, going to India, and then reaching to another 1.4 billion customers. So basically, ASEAN is very good connector to all the key economic center of Asia. Yes. And in fact, this integration happened over the past 15 years. The connectivity between the country is still not completed. In a period of 10 years, it's all completed to become a single network. And this is 2022-21 already. The network even more complete. This will lead into a new phase of economic expansion that will last 10, 15 to 20 years for us. Opportunity include power, key infrastructure, real estate, manufacturing, tourism. And in fact, let me give you a picture of Bangkok. Since actually we talk about Indonesia, I take my opportunity to say good thing about Thailand. Bangkok will also change in the next 5 years with the new skyline. This project is one Bangkok. This is Central Lucid. This is Ban Sir complex. This is Makassar complex, and this Asiatic complex. All of these will be completed mostly in the next 5 years. This one is already completed. So basically, it will change the skyline and give the potential of becoming the business center of Asia for Bangkok. The subway will also completed over the next 5 years. Now, let me turn to final topic very quickly. What needs to be done to get ready to restart? I hope that our discussion so far helped make clear of what are the challenges over the next 3 years. We are, as I told you, we are standing here. As we approach the end of 2021, vaccination process is continue and will definitely achieve high coverage by end of the year and also early next year. The Fed tapering is already began. Supply chain relocation already started with the opening up of the economy. Now business people are coming back and looking at the opportunities. International tourists is expected to return mid of next year. I think everyone announcing now, but it will take some time. Maybe next year at mid years will be more substantial. And then we might see the rise of the world interest rate toward the end of next year. And at the time, intense competition, the rise of the local interest rate in Thailand and maybe in Indonesia, and then the expansion will continue at a slower pace as we have 2 good years already in 2001, 2002, and in Thailand, since we are late in the game, we probably have a good year for 2002 and 2003 as our tourism sector return. And at the same time, you can see that the government around the world is now talking about cleaning up NPL and other things like that. So basically, I think over the next 3 years, there will be a lot of challenge, but we can see exactly when it will happen and we can prepare accordingly. But most important thing is the next 6 months. The next 6 months will be the most important period. As we approach the end of the tunnels, we have to prepare for the competition. We have to prepare our exit And the best way to do it is to capture the emerging opportunity that came from the pandemic. Because of why? Because I told many people that in fact, you might be very happy now that you see the light at the end of the tunnel, but you might not realize that outside the tunnel, there might be a lot of competition, a lot of trap that you have to compete with. And to survive outside the tunnel, you have to use the end period of COVID over the next 6 months to prepare yourself. And the best way to do it is to capture the emerging opportunity that come from the pandemic. Digitalizations, this is the best time to turn digital, do the digital transformation, renovation of the department store, your business, preparation for future business. This is probably the right time to do it. New products, asset acquisition. This is probably the best time to buy condominium and buy all the key assets that you would like to buy. And this is the last third point. Locking in the temporary low cost of funding. Maybe a little bit late, but it's still okay. So you have to do it now, not next year. This is probably the last call for the low cost of funding to be locked down. And also you have to prepare for the regionalization as ASEAN going to become very exciting later on. And we also have to look for ways to taking advantage of those businesses that will be relocated into ASEAN, and also the headquarters that will be setting up in the ASEAN area. Whether we will be successful or not in the post-COVID era will depend on how well we prepare ourselves and take advantage of the opportunity as the countries reopen. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kopsak, for the insightful presentation. After some notes from your material, economic recovery process in the global economy and its short-term challenges, the emerging medium-term risks to be managed, long-term opportunities going forward, and how to getting ready to restart. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind you that there is a Q&A button on the screen to the participant who joined via Zoom. You can ask the question through it, both in Bahasa or English. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the next presentation where we will meet Permata Bank's Chief Economist, Pak Joshua Pardede. Besides his position as Permata Bank Chief Economist, he is also a member of Perhimpunan Bank Nasional Economist team. He has been awarded as the most accurate economist by Department of Communication of Bank of Indonesia in 2019. A seasoned and top economist in this country, Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Pak Joshua Pardede.
Thank you, WSP, for the introduction. Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to present about our view from Permata Bank regarding Indonesia economic outlook in 2022, promoting recovery amid Fed normalization policy. So, as Dr. Kopsak mentioned earlier, that we are heading to the end of the tunnel. I think Indonesian economy also experience the same. Yeah, so we are heading to the end of the tunnel. Some points that I would like to cover today is about the global and financial market updates, and the second one is regard to the domestic economic updates, including also the selected industry overview and our analysis for the next year, and the 2022 macroeconomic forecast, and the fifth one is the fiscal and government policy, and last one is regarding to the monetary policy and banking sector. So, as Dr. Kopsak mentioned earlier, that we are still heading to the end of the tunnel, but some global risks are expected to remain in 2022. from the US, as Dr. Kopsak mentioned, about tapering and increasing the Fed fund rates, including also the debt ceiling. From the Europe also, or based on our analysis, we need to anticipate the tapering from ECB and Bank of England. And from the China, there are also some downside risks related to the Evergrande default risk and also China's medium-term economic slowdown. This is also related to the China's structural change from export-oriented to domestic economic-oriented. And lastly, there is also some downside risk coming from the fluctuation commodity prices, supply side disruption, and also stagflation. The increasing energy crisis also has been driven by the recovery in global economy. In addition to that, also some shortage in containers globally has led to the increasing in the container cost. And I think we have already experienced producer price index, wholesaler price index in some countries, including Indonesia, already have experienced increasing trend. And then how this global risk could impact to Indonesian economy, we believe that the tapering and also increasing in Fed fund rate could lead to the rising volatility in financial market. Particularly in details, we would see the decrease in capital flows, an increase in safe haven asset purchase, strengthening of US dollar, and also depreciation in EM currencies, including rupiah, and also an increase in bond yields. Apart of that, also the impact from China slowdown and also some disruption in globally also could lead to the disruption in domestic supply chain, which will impact the manufacturing sectors. Secondly, also global economic slowdown could experience, particularly because of China slowdown. And the third one is the potential of imported inflation, due to the increasing in energy and food commodity prices, which potentially could drive inflation and increase subsidy. It also can increase the material costs, especially for import-dependent sectors. And last one is the increasing producer prices, which lead to the increasing import costs. So other than that, I think we are still facing the pandemic for Indonesia itself. Fortunately, government currently have introduced in the state budget of 2022 that the government consider COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2 not only as a pandemic but as a pandemic. So I think we are heading hopefully to the end of the tunnel. So basically regarding the financial market, as Dr. Kopsak mentioned, in 2021, due to the expectation of tapering from the Feds and also accelerated in Fed fund rate hike, we've seen that some movement in US dollar against major currencies still going to the uptrend, meaning that the dollar tends to appreciate against major currencies. At the same time, also emerging market currencies also experience depreciation. But however, I can show you here that the rupiah depreciation is relatively lower compared to other emerging countries' currencies. Meaning that we know that the fundamental of Indonesian economy, since 2013, the last data crisis we experienced about the tapering tantrum, actually the government have been managing to encourage to support, to increase, and to improve the fundamental of the Indonesian economy. And then, other than that, if you look at from the asset class, global class, as Dr. Kopsak mentioned as well, that on the back of expectation of global economic recovery, which leads to the corporate earnings increase. So we've seen also in this year that the stock performance actually outperform other products, yeah, or other asset classes. Yeah, it can be shown here that the GCI, Jakarta Composite Index, appreciated around 11% so far as per last week. Regarding to the bond market, also we've seen that on the back of tapering a plan from the Fed and also expectation from the market regarding the U.S. interest rate going forward, we've seen that the U.S. Treasury yield increased so far around 72 basis point. But again, Indonesian government bond yield currently increased by around 14 basis point. So I think relative to other government bond in emerging countries, I think the correction in the bond market in Indonesia, I think relatively smaller compared to other emerging countries. Yeah, this is basically related to the structure of the domestic investors in Indonesia, yeah, which has been increasing. Yeah, currently the foreign investors ownership to either government bond is relatively around 20 to 21%. So basically, this is relatively lower compared to the condition in 2013, which is currently at the time foreign ownerships on either government bond nearly about 30 to 35%. And related to the 2013 taper tantrum, yeah, what we've seen in 2013, actually we note that we studied about the tapering process until the Fed fund rate hike, yeah, Fed fund rate hike. So basically, there are two episodes in the tapering process that could affect significantly to rupiah and also ideal bond yield. Yeah, but the first one is a tapering announcement, and the second one is the period after the end of tapering until the first rate hike. But what we've seen in 2021 this year, after the Fed already confirmed to start the tapering this month until mid of next year, actually the market has priced in the condition and there is no extraordinary reaction from the markets. So far, rupiah also have been manageable, stable around 14,200 until 14,300. The ideal bond yield also, although as per if you compare to the end of last year, the bond yield increased, but as I mentioned earlier also, the condition right now is relatively the bond market still relatively stable. And I think there are some reasons why we don't expect another taper tantrum to happen this time round. Yeah. So what happened in 2013 is two events, the taper and tantrum, but we expect in 2021 and 2022 there will be a taper with a tantrum. Yeah, because the Fed has been much more transparent in signaling expected monetary policy path, communicating well in advance of major policy shift, and as a result, mitigating sharp financial market disturbances. And the second one, Asian emerging market countries have stronger economic fundamentals compared to 2013, including Indonesia, because we know that, as I mentioned earlier, also the foreign ownership on either government bond is relatively already having declining yet. Yeah, so I think the impact of tapering will not that be as significant as as we experienced in 2013. And the third one is the pandemic has contributed to the shift in the balance of payment position in emerging Asia, which reduced the risk of sharp capital outflow. We noted that economists in 2013 have categorized the fragile five, including Indonesia. But again, due to the structural reforms have been implemented by the government of Indonesia, also the financial stability have been managed by the regulators, Bank Indonesia, OJK, and also LPS. So we expect that the risk on the taper the facts I think will be manageable for Indonesia. And so far, what we've seen from the foreign flows, although on the bond market, the foreign investors still posted outflow, or the ownerships is decreasing, but on the other hand, the foreign investors in the stock market still posted a net buy. So we are moving to the Indonesian economy. So this is the snapshot for Indonesian economy indicators. First of all, regarding to the GDP growth, we in line with our expectation that in the third quarter, Indonesian economy GDP will likely be lower compared to second quarter of this year. This is because of the resurgence of the COVID-19 cases in July and August, so that the government implemented the stricter restriction to the people mobility. So that's why what we experienced in early of third quarter, the supply side and also the demand side have been disrupted again by the mobility restrictions. And from the inflation perspective also, we noted that the inflation as per October data, actually the inflationary pressure still below the BI's target, which is between 2 to 4%. So this means that again the demand side in 2021 I think is limited. And then this is also have been shown by the international organization like IMF, World Bank, and also ADB have lowered the 2021 GDP forecast for Indonesia and some countries, including China and India. Regarding to the external balance or external balance, so actually the trade balance, Indonesia experienced a big surplus. So can you imagine in the last 2 months we are the trade surplus recorded all-time high. We've never seen this level amount of a big export performance compared to imports, and this is mainly because again the impact of commodity prices hikes and also the gradual improving in the export volume. So as I mentioned earlier also, the current account deficit in Indonesia is expected to remain low. So that's why our foreign reserves increase in this year, on the back of low current account deficit. And to be specific regarding to the Indonesian GDP, so also we already expected before that the second quarter this year, most countries, including Indonesia, experience the low base effect, meaning that we have discovered that the true level during pandemic happened in second quarter last year. So when the stimulus already works, and also the vaccination program also has been progressing. So basically, in the second quarter this year, actually there is more on low base effect. So we will see the real recovery the second half of this year. And because of the resurgence in the third quarter, we experienced that a slower recovery. So basically, bottom line is the recovery in 2021 for Indonesia is not that as predicted, because resurgence of COVID-19 cases. But hopefully, as also Dr. Komsat mentioned earlier, that the vaccination rate in Indonesia currently may be nearly almost 50%, including the first dose and second doses. I think we are taking into account the big amount of population. I think we are heading to the right track for governments. And then the biggest two engines of growth in Indonesia, for some, that are private consumption and also investment. We've seen that in the third quarter, have been declining. Yeah. So, but we expect next year, due to the pent-up demand, also due to the herd immunity, because government expected that the herd immunity could be achieved next year. So we expect that the people mobility also try to do it in a good directions, meaning that the consumer confidence will improve, and also the consumption also, whether on durable and non-durable goods, I think will also improve. The second is investment. This is related to the, as I mentioned, the structural reform have been introduced by the government. Last year, during the pandemic, the government of Indonesia, different from other countries in Asia actually, the government has introduced the omnibus law on job creation. Yeah. So basically, the government of Indonesia not only concerned about this short-term economic recovery, but also the government of Indonesia also concerned about the structural reform for the medium to longer term of Indonesian economy. Because when the government initiated this omnibus law on job creation, actually this will attract for investment, because we know that the impact of pandemic have been leading to the increase in the poverty rates, increasing of the unemployment rate. So basically, we need to attract investments, to open up the real sectors, businesses. So in order to again to increase the GDP per capita. So going forward, we expect that in the medium to longer term, based on government's initiative, that by 2045, we are already in the developed countries. Yeah. So this is basically if we analyze very into detail, about the private consumption. So basically, private consumption in Indonesia is mainly driven by food and beverages consumption, followed by transportation and communication. This is related to the leisure economy, and the third one is equipments, household equipments. Yeah, amongst the components of private consumption last year, only 3 components that have posted a positive growth last year. The first one is food beverages. This is related to the basic needs for Indonesian people, and the third one is household equipments, because most of the people last year also experiencing working from home. Yeah, so basically they try to buy something to decorate their, to renovate their housing. Yeah, to make a new hobby. Yeah, like in which can be done at home. And the third one is health and education. This is related to the how the spending of people in Indonesia to spend more on health, meaning that for medicines and also from other related to the vitamins, in order to strengthen their immunity. And those 2 sectors on components in private consumption that have been experienced negatively, those are transportation and communication, and restaurant and hotel. These 2 sectors are really related to the tourism sectors. So that's why what we've seen in the 2021, not so many sectors in Indonesia have recovered. So we experienced the K-shaped recovery, in Indonesia economic sectors, meaning that some sectors have recovered faster, but some other sectors will be slow starter, including related to the tourism sectors. And there are so many leading indicators in private consumption that show that indicated that private consumption will likely to improve, in the fourth quarter and to be continued in the next years. And this also can be seen that the automotive sales, both in 4-wheeler and 2-wheeler sales, also have been increased compared to 2020 level. However, still below than 2019 level. Also regarding to inflation, we would see that inflation will likely to increase next year. to nearly to the pre-pandemic level, yeah, to around 2.5 to 2.8%. This is related to the impact of VAT tariff hike due to the harmonization on tax law, yeah, have been introduced couple 2 months or 2 months ago, yeah. This will contribute to the inflation, and the second one is pent-up demand. And I think the other inflationary pressure coming from the pass-through of the increasing in the producer price index and also wholesale price index. Regarding to investment, also in the third quarter and also from the second quarter, I think investment have been recovered, yeah, particularly in machinery and equipments, because related to the commodity sectors, mining sectors and also plantation sectors, I think they managed to invest more on heavy equipments. Yeah, so that's why as per January to September data, actually heavy equipment sales increased by 84% this year. And this is related to the prospect of Indonesian investment. I think Indonesian investment still lucrative, yeah, for foreign investors and also domestic investments. As I mentioned earlier, also Indonesia are experiencing the bonus demographic, yeah, until 2030. So I think as the biggest economy in ASEAN, so I think Indonesian economy, I think, is one of the lucrative country to invest. This is why can be seen here during pandemic, the domestic direct investment and also foreign direct investment still posted positive growth. Yeah, that I think cannot be seen in other countries, but in Indonesia, based on the KPM data, that the foreign direct investment and domestic direct investment increased during the pandemic. Related to the sectorals, yeah, so I can show you that there are 4 big sectors in Indonesia that contributed most of the economy. The first one in manufacturing, the second one is agriculture, the third one is wholesale and retail trade, and the fourth one is construction. But amongst those 4 sectors, only one sector that could positive growth last year. That is agriculture. Yeah, because agriculture is mainly is less affected by this pandemic, and then the pandemic have very significant impact to the manufacturing, to the construction, and to also to the wholesale and retail trade. But we also noticed we related to the private consumption components, as I mentioned earlier, the consumption on tourism related to transportation and also hotel restaurant. From the supply side also, we have experienced the same. Yeah, the transportation and storage decline last year, and also including to accommodation and food service activity. But for this year, we've seen that the most transportation and also accommodation and food service activity, which is related to hotel restaurant, I think already have recovered. But the recovery rate, I think, compared to other sectors, I think is very limited. And I also noticed that there are 2 service sectors in Indonesia which outperformed last year. Those are information and communication. This is related to digital economy. Just mentioned also by Dr. Kopsak that actually the digital economy has been increasing in Indonesia and also in Southeast Asia, thanks to the 2019 pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, because by this pandemic also we need to be agile, to transform digitally from conventional or from offline to online transaction. And the second one is related to the health sector. Yeah, so basically those 2 sectors, although the contribution to the economy is relatively low, but the performance of those sectors are outperformed. And related to the spatial growth, we also noticed that last year, actually, most of the provinces in Indonesia have experienced negative growth. Yeah, particularly related to the tourism. Yeah, like in Bali, West Nusa Tenggara, and also Yogyakarta have experienced a deeper contraction compared to other provinces. And I think amidst the pandemic last year, also we noted that there are also still 3 provinces in Indonesia that could grow positively. Those are Central Sulawesi, the second one is North Maluku, and the third one is Papua. Those provinces are related to the investments in the nickel upstreaming, downstreaming in nickel. So basically, that's the related to the battery industry, to support the global value chain for electric vehicle. So that's so basically, if we go to the forecast, Indonesian economy in 2020, 2021, we still expect around 3.6%, but for the next year, we still expect around 4.7%, It depends on how the government also can speed up the implementation of job creation law, because if the investment coming faster than our expectation, it could be higher to around 5%, And regard to inflation, we still expect around 2.5 to 0.8%. And the BI policy rate, with regard to the expectation of higher inflation, BI could potentially consider a rate hike at the end of next year, by 25 basis point. But BI also can decide to maintain policy rate when the inflation remain under control, and also rupiah still manageable. And for rupiah itself, we expect for the next year, rupiah will be slightly weaker compared to this year because of the tapering process and also expectation of rate hike next year. So we expect rupiah will be slightly weaker. This is also based on our expectation that current account deficit will likely could be higher next year. So maybe I will jump directly to the our industry analysis. So in 2022, we expect that the entire industry will recover gradually. This is in line with the improvement in global economic domestic economy. The lower number of COVID-19 cases in all regions, and also the relaxation of mobility restriction. I think this is the key points why we think that the increasing demand of industrial products will happen next year. But some challenges we need to anticipate, regarding to the industry performance. The first one is tapering and possible of interest rate hike, and then which could potentially strengthen the US dollar, because the stronger US dollar will depress the performance of industry that rely on imported raw materials, and its product is aimed at the domestic market. So basically, the revenue is rupiah, but the obligation they have in the US dollar. So this will be weighed by the stronger dollar. And the second one is the increase in interest rates. Also has potential to increase the financial expense of the industry. The third one is price of raw materials and energy globally are increasing. So as an effect, production costs of industry will increase going forward. Industry players may pass through the increase in raw materials prices to consumer. Which led to the inflation again. However, in condition of economic recovery after the COVID-19 pandemic, we estimate that consumers' ability to absorb price increases will be limited. And the fourth one, the supply chain problem at the global level does not appear to be waning. Logistic problems due to the availability of containers could hamper the flow of raw materials in worldwide. In addition to that, also the issue of semiconductors, which are the raw materials for the world's major industries, especially automotive and electronics, also could hamper the rate of increase the output of processing industry. And the last one is the implementation of carbon tax in 2022 by the government is also expected to increase industrial operation costs. Furthermore, the carbon tax effect on industry would worsen if other countries have not fully implemented this carbon tax. So basically, I will just point out some industry, which is we think that this industry still lucrative and potential to invest. The first one is petrochemical. But we see here that several indicators of petrochemical industry show improvement in 2021. Polyethylene and polypropylene import volume recorded a cumulative increase from January to September. In addition to that, also, however, in the third quarter, the petrochemical industry was slightly disturbed due to the mobility restrictions. But we expect that in next year, yeah, the demand for petrochemical product will recover gradually, yeah, along with the economic recovery. However, the challenge for the petrochemical industry is the naphtha price increase, yeah, due to the global oil price index, global price increase. Yeah. In addition to that, also the potential of weaker rupiah due to tapering also could pose a risk of increasing production costs, yeah, because most of the raw materials in petrochemical industry are imported. The second sector is automotive. Yeah. Also, as I mentioned earlier, that automotive sales in Indonesia in 2021 have recovered. Yeah. So basically, cumulative January to September, actually, four-wheeler sales recorded 68%, while in the two-wheeler sales recorded increase about 31%. Yeah. But we expect in the next year, yeah, both four-wheeler and two-wheeler sales, I think will recover faster, but still will not reach the pre-pandemic level for four-wheeler. Basically, before pandemic, the normal situation is 1 million. We still expect below 1 million, around 906,000 units, and then for two-wheeler sales, we expect around 5.17 million units. Yeah. And the third one is cement industry. Yeah, this is very related to the construction and also property sector in Indonesia. As I mentioned earlier, also the cumulative cement sales in 2021 have recovered. Yeah, so basically the demand is driven by property and also constructions. And as we also note that the government still allocate for a big amount of infrastructure projects next year. So I think this is very also related to the expectation of positive growth in cement industry. The fourth one is poultry sectors. Yeah, this is also poultry sectors performance was better also in 2021 compared to 2020. Yeah, the poultry sector still grow around 2.5%. Yeah, again in the third quarter, most of the sectors have down slightly, but we expect going forward for the livestock industry will recover. Yeah, again, several indicators have improved. Yeah, due to the relaxation in mobility. Yeah, and also this is in line to the poultry industry. The food and beverages retail sales index also have been increasing in the last 2 months. The last one is coal mining. Yeah, this is coal mining. So we examine the movement on coal price. So until November 8th, the average of coal price was recorded around $132 per ton. Yeah, higher than average in 2020, which is only $60.3 per ton. Yeah, and as Dr. Kopsak mentioned also, we also expected that the increase in the coal prices will have to normalize. Yeah, at least in the first half, or as early in the first half next year, or early in the second half next year. Yeah, but we estimate the price in the coal prices, yeah, will still relatively high. Yeah, because the correction in the coal price will not return to its lowest level in 2020. Yeah, because the coal demand has started to recover in line with the global economic recovery. And then, yeah, I think we in general, yeah, we expect that the economy from the supply side and demand side will recover faster in 2022. Yeah, because the government, yeah, Bank Indonesia, OJK, have been implemented such accommodative policies, yeah, in 2020 until 2021. So we expect that Indonesian economy also is heading to the end of the tunnel. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Pak Joshua, for insightful presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for us to get into the question and answer sessions. Before we start, I would like to invite once again to our speakers, Dr. Kopsak and Pak Joshua, to appear on the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, we have received a lot of questions from the audience, and I will try to read some of the questions. The first question is to Dr. Kopsak Putrakun. Given the Fed tapering to end by mid-2022 and one interest rate hike at the end of 2022, would Bank of Thailand be likely to hike the rate to take along with the US? And the second one, we have heard a lot about US recovery. How about Eurozone economy? Dr. Kopsak?
Thank you, Ibu for the questions. I would like to give my view on what will be the policy action by the Bank of Thailand going forward. The Fed, at this point in time, as we can see from the dot plot, is very close to indicate that there will be one rate hike by the end of next year. I mean, at this point in time, it's 9 to 9. But given the situation in terms of improvement, in terms of employment and inflation, it will be very likely that some of the members will decide to go for one rate hike by the end of next year. But the question that people always ask is that if the Fed increase the interest rate, would the Bank of Thailand need to do so or not? From my personal point of view, since we let the exchange rate float already, we break the connection between US Fed and also the Bank of Thailand policy rate. And in fact, we probably will look at the situation in Thailand economy as the key criteria of taking policy action. At this point in time, my estimate is the following. The sector that has been most impacted by COVID is the tourism sector. This sector, accounting for 15% of the GDP, employed 10 million people. And at this point in time, only 2 months ago, the occupancy rate of the hotel is 3%. 3%. So basically, it means that 10 million people is unemployed. 15% of GDP is not generate income. The Bank of Thailand have to wait until this sector to make a good recovery before they are making the policy decision. I would imagine that toward the end of the year, given good vaccination process in Thailand, Thai people will travel inside first. We already start to see Thai people go to Khao Yai, Hua Hin, and places close to Bangkok. And occupancy rate is now filled up. Some places have no room left over the weekend. The restaurants are fully packed. So basically, the Thai travel trade has been quite good. But for international trades, compared to Europe, it is roughly 3% of the norm. So if that is the case, we probably have to wait until the end of the year to complete the vaccination process and get the COVID cases. And by doing so, come and travel millions from abroad. So, like 40 million pre-COVID, I think it will be a good achievement already. And by doing so, then the tourism sector will come back maybe 50%. And because 1/3 is domestic and another 2/3 is international, right? So we have to wait another year and until the year 2023 for the tourist sector to 80% recover. I think toward the end of 2023, the Bank of Thailand will start thinking about raising the interest rate. So it will be roughly a year or maybe a year and a half delay compared to the Fed because of our condition is totally different. It will be totally difficult for the Bank of Thailand to raise the rate when 5 million people still unemployed, right? Okay. Now, let me go to the second question that Ibu SD asked is on the EU economy. We give you too many pictures of the US, and our audience asked, why don't you give some view about the European Union? I think the European Union is also experiencing what the US experiencing in terms of post-pandemic boom. You can see that people are very happy. I talked to a lot of consultants. They told me that they are now travel in Italy. They are now travel in Spain. To do another travel. And I have one of my customers who are hotel business. They told me that the occupancy rate in Europe is also coming back. And then the room rate has increased by 3 times compared to the COVID period. So basically, I think the recovery in Europe is now catching up with the US recovery. It used to be -6 last year. This year, Europe will grow 5%. Next year, 4.3. Next year, 4.3, and the year after, 2.4, back to normal. So basically, I think Europe is doing okay. They are now only 1% above pre-COVID in terms of unemployment rate. So basically, they have taken back 1.5 million jobs already, and then it's been quite okay. And the recovery is now becoming expansionary. But the problem is the recent increase in COVID cases. We have seen country like Netherlands making announcement lately that they will lock down for 3 more weeks. And Austria will also lock down people who are not vaccinated. And Germany is also pose a lot of condition on people who are not fully vaccinated. So basically, the recovery process in EU might be affected. But I'm very confident that given the availability of vaccine and also new drug that coming out, I think they should be get the problem in Europe back under control, and the recovery will come back again. Of England, they are having another round of cases. Who fell sick is not that much. So basically, I think recovery in Europe is similar to the US, but proceed slow in terms of tapering, in terms of raising the rate, and then that will be a challenge.
Thank you, Dr. Kausak. Next question is for Pak Joshua. First question, would like to know your opinion about carbon tax that will be implemented in 2022 and how the future prospect for coal industries. The second one, with the global economic uncertainty, Fed policy, China economic turbulence, commodity price, etc., which will have a significant impact to our economy. Which sectors are still the winning sector after the pandemic become endemic in 2 or 3 years? Joshua?
Okay, I'm gonna answer about the first questions. Yeah, we think in the short term, the coal industry is still prospective, as many other countries are experiencing low energy supply. Yet in the long term, we've seen that major challenges as many countries has committed to reduce the coal use. Coal use to decrease the emission. For the carbon tax, we think that if the other countries also committed to implement these tax measures, the effect is relatively minimal as the production costs in other countries also increase. However, if it's not equally implemented, meaning that only Indonesia that implemented the carbon tax itself, so I think it will reduce our competitiveness. But again, as I mentioned, the carbon tax I think will be limited for the next years, but because of the demand globally for commodity, particularly on coal, is relatively high. The second one is related to the questions about global economic uncertainty, regard to Fed policy and also China's economic turbulence. actually, I think, yeah, because China actually is our main trading partners. Yeah, if we look at the data from Stats of Indonesia, Indonesia's export to Indonesia to China accounts around 20% itself. Yeah, the biggest one. Yeah, amongst other export destinations, China is the biggest export destinations for Indonesia. So what happened in China, I think, will also affect to Indonesia export performance. Yeah, basically that's the first risk, and the second risk, I think, related to the related to the Fed policy. I think, as I mentioned in my presentation, I think we can manage the impact of the Fed tapering and also the Fed rate hike next year, because Bank Indonesia also explained that, mentioned that the monetary policy next year will be more pro stability, meaning that the Bank Indonesia will also start to taper its quantitative easing policy, for Bank Indonesia, and then Bank Indonesia also have managed to do cooperation with other central banks related to the local currency settlements. I think many clients have read about these local currency settlements, because I think this is also could loosen our dependency on US dollar. Yeah, so I think the impact of Fed policy, I think, relatively manageable. I'm still more on the impact of China slowdown, because some investments from China also have been increasing, in the last couple of years. So I think it will impact if the China slowdown experience very significant. And then regard to the winning sectors, I think the winning sectors after the pandemic is related to the consumer sectors, because what we've seen also in the last couple of months, when the demand side have recovered, also the consumer confidence index improved, the retail sales improved. So I think the consumer related products will likely to improve first, which will be the fast starter, and then followed by the manufacturing sectors. And I think, as Dr. Kopsak mentioned, also the tourism sector in Indonesia still, and also related sectors like transportation, hotel and restaurant, I think will be the slow starter, because basically which related to the incoming foreigners or tourists. I think those are my analysis and my answers. Thank you, Bu Esti.
Thank you, Pak Joshua. Next question is for Dr. Kopsak. Would Thailand be facing stagflation in 2022 with another COVID wave and higher inflation, given the Bank of Thailand could not hike the rate? Dr. Kopsak?
Hi, my view on inflation is the following. Many people talk about stagflation. The stagflation happened in 70s when the oil price go up, and then the economy slow down, but inflation keep on rising, right? But what we have seen at this point in time, I think inflation comes from demand side. So basically, as I told you before, the post-pandemic boom have created a condition where people reorder and restocking their product at the same time across the world, and this lead to supply shortage and increase in commodity prices, and also increase in the production prices. Container not enough, and then delay and all other things. This process will take time to unwind, but once it's finished, everything will come down. So basically, for my view, I don't think that the problem that we are facing now is stagflation. But COVID in 2022 is a problem. we're already talking about end of the tunnel, how to get ready, how to restart, new phase is coming. For me, I'm telling my colleague in Thailand that this round of recovery is totally different than the former round. I think in Thailand we have 3 waves of COVID. The first one in April last year, the second one end of last year, and the third one starting of mid of this year. The first 2 rounds, when we get out of it, is because of the government has become very stringent and get the case of COVID down to 10, 5, 7. So people become confident again and go out and then spend their life. But every time that we recover like this, it's always a case that there is some cases coming down from across the border. And when we have another cluster coming up, then the whole recovery stop and go like this. But this time around is different because now people go out of their home and spend their money going to shopping mall, restaurant, because they confident that they're already taking vaccine. Like in Bangkok, almost 100% of people get first dose already. Within the end of this month, maybe 90% get double doses. So basically, everyone go out of the home with confidence that I have some immunity inside my body. So I would expect that this round of recovery will be more sustainable and will be totally different than before. It will not be stop and go. But then the question is this: what to do if we have another outbreak and if we have another new variant, Omega, for example, because we have new already, right? Now, if we have Omega coming up, what will happen? I've been working closely with the government, and we are talking about getting more vaccine and then make some preparation so that next year, if such thing happen, then the government can start reboosting the immunity of people in Thailand. The people who are at risk is the elderly, 11 million people, 11 millions, and maybe people with their underlying condition, maybe 2 or 3 more millions. So we need roughly about 15 million doses so that we can really cover the weak point. And Thailand is able to vaccinate roughly about 2 million doses per day. So we need roughly about 7 to 10 days at most if we have this vaccine ready. So this is what we are preparing. So basically, also our PM also giving money to the local company to develop our own vaccine, which is very, very high potential. So basically, 2022 will be challenging, but I don't think will be a problem of stagnation. It will be more like transitory inflation, and then transitory demand, and then the real challenge is COVID coming back, like what happened in Europe now. So the lucky thing in Thailand is this. Since I have my chance to say, the lucky thing is Thai people not afraid of getting vaccine. So we expected by the end of this year, almost everyone above the age of 12 years old will be vaccinated. Everyone. So basically, everyone in Thailand, the kids have good immunity already, and elderly will be. Everyone else will be vaccinated. So that will be good. And another thing, the Thai people always not hesitate to put on the mask. We still keep on vigilant. So I think 2022 should be a good year for Thailand.
Thank you, Dr. Kopsak. So 2022 is still challenging, but the boost of vaccination and immunity is one of the key. Next question is for Bapak Joshua. Are we seeing an increase in the food sector in Indonesian economy?
Yeah, I think related to the food and beverages sectors, I think, as I mentioned earlier, that agriculture as the upstreaming sector in food sectors, have outperformed other sectors in last year, because during the pandemic, the agriculture still posted positive growth. While if we look at the investments perspective also, I would say that the investments in food sectors related to food and beverages sectors also have been increasing, particularly for for domestic and also foreign investors. And this is also because I think as I already showed in my presentation, food and beverages is the components, the biggest components of private consumption in Indonesia. So because Indonesia is mainly driven by private consumption, around 55 to 58% is consumption, and amongst of those private consumption, the 30% is driven by food and beverages. I think food sectors, will likely to improve, going forward, because as the mobility already recovered, and also the restrictions relaxed, and also the immunity also have been achieved. I think the consumption behavior from Indonesian people, I think, will recover, and this will be positive for food sectors. Thank you, Bu Esti.
Very interesting. Thank you, Pak Joshua. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for all of your questions, but unfortunately, our time is very limited. We will gather the remaining questions and get in touch with you. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Permata Bank and Bangkok Bank, I would like to say thank you for your participation in today's event. For our speakers, for today's Economy Outlook 2022 webinar, Light at the End of the Tunnel, Optimism on Economic Recovery after COVID-19 Pandemic. Before we close this webinar, I would like to invite all attendees to view our polling that will appear in a brief moment on your screen. I will give you your time and we'll be back in 3 minutes.